Hello and welcome to February's membership video. In this video I'm going to do a junk journal spread that started off as just kind of like a spread for using up leftover paint that I had on my palette, and this actually started, like I recorded this part of the video like months ago. I think honestly after I did a different membership video where I painted the flowers in a journal page. I didn't want to waste the paint, so I just spread it around, like I opened up a journal, spread the paint around, and sort of let it kind of do whatever, and then saved it for another time, and that other time is now. So I'm just kind of spreading it around, and it's at the end, by the end of the video, you really don't see a whole lot of this paint anymore, which is kind of sad, but on the other hand, you know, it was more of like a jumping off point to be able to, you know, not have like a blank page, and, you know, also not feel bad about just wasting all of this paint. So I had this idea that I wanted to do some sort of abstract thing with X's, and I wanted to like include some collage of this you could see there's like a break between the pages because it's a break between the signatures, and so I kind of wanted to bridge that gap a little bit, and it's sort of like I kind of push everything around back and forth because like I started with using like a Neocolor 2 crayon, which is just, you know, like a water soluble crayon, to do the X part, and then that's gonna kind of evolve a little bit throughout the video, and it's kind of demonstrates the like process, I guess, you know, like you start with one idea and then that idea changes and evolves, and then you just kind of go with it, and then until you kind of finally land on something that you like. So I'm going to start adding some paint onto the pages around these X's and stuff, just to sort of bring them in, you know, to the background so it doesn't look like they're just on top of the page. And then I'm going to add some different colors and stuff like that to, you know, add some contrast and just sort of play around. So during this whole process, I'm trying not to think too much about where I'm putting paint and colors and stuff like that. I just know that I want to have some lighter areas and some darker areas, so I'm using, you know, lighter and darker paint, and I want to sort of just, again, bring like these X's that are my focal point sort of into the page. So I'm using a bunch of Dina Wakley media paints. I had just gotten the new paints, the mustard and the raspberry, so I was kind of playing around with those, and then also using my favorite golden color, the Titan Mars Pale. And like I said, just like trying not to think too much about where I'm putting things and what I'm doing, and just sort of kind of going with the flow. So now I'm taking a mechanical pencil and I want to try to carve some lines and scribbles into the paint. The paint's a little dry for too much of that, but it's still, you know, the lead is still obviously adding some scribbles and texture and stuff like that. And then I'm going to use some collage like tissue papers that I made. I always dump out too much matte medium whenever I'm trying to glue stuff. But this is like on like one of the Dina Wakley media collage tissues, like the blanks. I had just done like some painty words and letters and stuff. So I'm using that across the page, and then, or the spread really, and just adding some different elements, because I was looking at the page and I wasn't sure what to do next, so I decided why not go with my handy dandy collage and see what happens. So now that we have the collage paper down, I feel like, again, you kind of need to push it into the background. And back to the playing around with paint stage, and, you know, going over the layers with the different colors and trying to make the collage parts kind of blend in with the rest of the page. So I don't think I had recorded this part, but at the beginning of the video, like after I put the paint and everything down on the page, I had kind of just done the stenciling, the reverse stenciling, where you like take away some of the paint and everything. So that's what I'm doing again here, using the same stencil. And because I realized I kind of covered over a lot of the collage on the one part, which maybe was more than I wanted to. So I'm just kind of trying to bring that back out in an interesting way. So I kept going back and forth with, you know, trying to push some of these things into the background and trying to, like, as far as the collage papers, like, not covering up too much. And then, you know, I was sort of, like, warring with it a little bit, like, because I didn't like it, but I didn't want to cover it up and blah, blah, blah. So finally, I sort of just let go and let, you know, whatever happens, happen, sort of, because at the beginning I was also not wanting to cover up the background colors too much, and I guess leaving or having these kind of like abstract or arbitrary rules, so to speak, in place where you feel like you can't do something or you shouldn't do something sort of limits what you ultimately do and what you ultimately like, if that makes sense. So saying like, oh, well, I can't cover up this paper or this paint because otherwise what was the point? Well, the point was the process, right? And the jumping off that you started here and you ended up here, and you wouldn't have ended up there potentially if you hadn't have gone through all of the steps beforehand. So just, that's one of the things that sometimes I struggle with, is allowing that process to happen. But it ultimately ends up being better, when you do allow it to happen and just kind of trust your own instincts. Now here is the second iteration of the X's. I am going over it with some black gesso because I wanted them to be more poppy and less like backgroundy, I guess. So I'm trying the gesso and seeing how I like that. So at this point, I felt like everything was sort of just a hot mess of colors, and like it was very rainbowy. And I wanted to sort of tone it down a bit by adding more. So I decided to bust out my Parchment spray paint and a stencil and sort of go over everything. And this is a Seth After stencil, so it's very grungy. And I thought it kind of worked well with what I was going with. And then it kind of pushes all of that crazy color into the background and makes it more of like a supporting role rather than the star, I guess. Maybe. So you can see it in the background and you can see all the different layers and all the different colors and how vibrant and kind of crazy it is, but you also have this like calming effect from like the lighter white spray paint, which I like a lot. So I felt like my X's looked too shiny and perfect, and I decided to try some scribbles to add a little something, and then thinking that I was done, I decided to add something to the focal point and add some more like texture, as if this really needs it, and add some fibers and stuff like that. And here we come to the final iteration of the X's. I felt like they were too perfect. I wanted some like flowiness to them and not just have them be like these perfect straight lines. So I'm taking a graphite, like a water-soluble graphite pencil. This one is from like Primo Marketing, I think. I got him at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going over it. I dipped the pencil thing, the charcoal, whatever, in water to activate it, and then scribbled over the X's, and then I'm taking more water to activate whatever didn't activate, and allowing the stuff to sort of spread, so that way there's like a more ethereal kind of watery flowy nature to them instead of like this big bold angry thing. And I like the way they are a lot better, and they grew a lot actually. So they look like crazy and bright and stuff like that, or bold right now, but when the water soluble pencil graphite stuff dries, it will look more like airy and flowy, which is what I wanted. And then of course I'm going to do some splatters, and this time I am using the Dina Wakley Media Ancient gloss spray rather than the Lindy's Gang, and don't ask me why. I think it's just because I saw it first. And just adding some splatters over my pages, and then that's it. I hope you enjoyed this process. It was definitely a process, lots of back and forth and stuff like that, and letting go, but ultimately I think it was worth it, and I think it turned out great. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.